So we'll start with a rhetorical question. How peaceful are you? How peaceful are you? When I start thinking about myself and trying to answer that question for myself, I think, okay, well, let's put this on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, I'm not a 10. I'm not a 1. Put myself on the higher side, beyond a 5, Maybe I'm an 8. I'm pretty peaceful. At least I think I am. But then I think about, what makes me unpeaceful. And I think about driving up Hillcrest Avenue towards Hurstville, and I want to turn left, and there are these slow pedestrians going across the road, and I can't make my left-hand turn because they don't move fast enough. And buses, yes. And I just go, "Ugh." And I go, well, maybe I'm not as peaceful as I thought. maybe I'm a 7 or a 6. There are some things that remove our peace. There are some things that destroy peace. Sometimes we have to ask ourselves, well, how peaceful are we with our job situation? How peaceful are we around the stuff we have? Do other people having better stuff, does that make us unpeaceful? Or do seeing other people's kids act the way we want our kid to act, does that make us unpeaceful? Does the dog eating stuff that he shouldn't eat make us unpeaceful? Yes, it does make me unpeaceful. Last week, we finished the service with a story about the Shunammite woman. We were talking about rewards for good behavior and how this woman, she got a son. She was a good person. She was doing everything right. Made this room for Elisha in her house just because she was being nice. And all of a sudden, good things started happening her way. Elisha says, hey, you want a son? All right, well, let's do that. So she gets a son. And it's an interesting story. It's one that I find that just we don't spend much time on. The whole Elijah-Elisha series gets overlooked a lot, I think, because Swedenborg doesn't really take it apart verse by verse like he does other stories. So I have tried to kind of take it apart verse by verse as best I can, and I thought it'd be a fun one to look at in context of the rewards for good behavior and how, this woman's already good, right? She is a peaceful woman. And so I thought, let's see how her story goes and, what we can get out of it. So this is going to be one of those services where we kind of go back and forth between the literal and the spiritual sense. Key to this story, as you might expect, is the woman. She is a Shunammite. And it's a Hebrew word that means peaceful. That's what it means. Harmony, a few different possible definitions if you wish, but it's along those lines, peaceful, full of peace. It's about a village of Shunem, and it's derived from Solomon, which is about peace. So we get the idea, strong play here that this woman is peaceful. And you can see that in how the story unfolds. And what I hope we see is that the more peaceful we are, the more blessed we become. It's one of those things that just kind of like a rock rolling down the hill. The more peaceful you are, the more blessed you are, the more blessed you are, the more peaceful you are. It keeps on rolling. So, with that in mind, I want to read you this Secrets of Heaven, number 92. It's in your order of service. And as we read this, kind of put this in your head. Am I this kind of peaceful? Or not me, are you this kind of peaceful? I know I'm not. But see if you can do this for yourself. None but the person who is acquainted with the state of peace is capable of knowing about the serenity of peace of the external person, which ensues when conflict, that is, the unrest caused by evil desires and falsities, comes to an end. Right? Conflict comes to an end. That state is so joyful, that it transcends every idea of joy. It's not just an end of conflict, it's also a life coming from an inward peace, influencing the external person in a way that defies description. Are you that kind of peaceful? At that point, truths of faith and goods of love are born, which draw their life from the joy that peace brings. pretty peaceful, right? Inward state of peace. You know, on my scale of 1 to 10, I'm thinking, nope, I am not this kind of peaceful. I'm not so joyful that it transcends every idea of joy that I had previously. I'm pretty good. Not that good. I think most of us fall in the category of not mastering this level of peace. You know, it's an end of conflict, right? End of conflict. Now, maybe you have worked some stuff out and you don't have conflict over certain areas of your life, and that's good. In the past, you sorted it out, and you're content in this particular area. But what I want to put, and when you've done that, you know, let's say, you know, you struggle with depression or a hot temper or whatever it is you've struggled with, but you don't anymore. Something new is born in your life. And in this story, the woman has a son. That's something new born in her life. And so we talk about spiritual offspring sometimes. It's like, what is a spiritual offspring? You don't have natural offspring. What's a spiritual offspring? This, my friends, is spiritual offspring. So you've conquered something, and boom, you have something new. That's what these truths of faith and good of love that are born are. With that contentment comes something new. So let's go through this story kind of piece by piece and see what secrets it has to reveal to us. So here we go. This is 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 8. One day, Elijah went to Shunem, right? He went to peace, right? And a well-to-do woman was there who urged him to stay for a meal. So whenever he came by, he stopped there to eat. She said to her husband, I know that this man who often comes our way is a holy man of God. Let's make a small room for him on the roof and put in it a bed and a table and a chair and a lamp for him. Then he can stay there whenever he comes to us. Right? Sounds great. Sounds great. So let's stop there for a second. You know, what's a roof and a room? Well, a roof means about what is the inmost or the inmost parts of ourselves. A bedroom, it's about the parts that cannot be seen and that are the inmost as well. So you have this, you know, where are we putting Elijah, right? This one's putting Elijah, that is the Word, right? The Lord, in this deep, deep part of her life, right? Some place that's so deep she can't even really see it. It's the Word written on her heart. It's not like she's memorizing the 10 Commandments. It's just part of her life. That's where Elisha is. Verse 11. One day Elisha came, went up to his room, and lay down there. And he said to his servant Gehazi, call the Shunammite. So he called her, and she stood before him. Elijah said to him, tell her, you have gone to all this trouble for us. Now what can be done for you? Can we speak on your behalf to the king or the commander of the army? She replied, I have a home among my people. Now think about this. You know, this is a big offer, right? The king and the army are a big deal, right? We don't need to think too hard about that one, right? And the king and the army, they're representative of all of our worldly cares and how the world works on this external level. So imagine somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I've got this really wealthy friend. They've got a place on the Sunshine Coast. Would you like me to introduce you to them? Would you like me to introduce this billionaire friend I have? And she's like, nah, I'm good. Huh? I've got the commander of the army on my team here. You'll be protected. You tax collectors won't bother you. People won't play loud music next to your house at night. Boy, it'll be great. And she says, nah, I got a home in my country among my people. I'm fine. Thank you very much. It's a pretty good lottery ticket, right? Now, you might be sitting here thinking, but you know, I'm really content. I am content in my life. And yes, I think I'm content in my life, too. But it's a difference to say I'm content in my life and then, hey, by the way, here's a lottery ticket. Would you like that? Yes, thank you very much. It's a different level when she can turn that away. Somebody wants to offer you a big pile of cash. How many of us are saying no thanks? She's more content, more peaceful than probably any of us. So verse 14, what can be done for her? Elijah asked. Gehazi says, well, she has no son and her husband is old. I like that. Husband is, had to add that in there. Husband is old. Now, husbands normally represent truth. But in this case, things are reversed because this is a celestial story. And so at this level of contentment, the husband actually represents goodness. So there's something, he's an old goodness, right? Something about the way she's been running her life that is essentially good, but there's something new that's coming, something new. There's no son. So Elisha said, call her. So he called her and she stood in the doorway. Doorways are about transitions. Something new is coming. Verse 16, about this time next year, Elisha said, you will hold a son in your arms. I'd love to know how he delivered that line. Dramatic and powerful, ba 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 ba, or, you know what, guess what, you're going to have a son next year. What? No, my Lord. Please, man of God, do not mislead your servant. Right? Anybody who knows a woman who does not have a child, you don't just throw that idea out there like you do a bunch of marbles, right? It's a whole pile of hurt and pain right there. Telling a woman, oh, no, don't tell me that. I'm content, I'm happy, leave me alone. Don't tell me I'm going to get a son. It's not going to happen. Please don't mislead me. Don't mess with my head. Verse 17, but the woman became pregnant, and the next year about that time, she gave birth to a son, just as Elisha had told her. Now, sons in particular are about rational truths. Now, in common English these days, something rational, it kind of means it makes sense. We say we're a rational church because it makes sense. But in the terms of the writings, rational is about truths that have relation between spiritual world and this world. It's a ratio between this world and the next is how it's described. It's not about making sense, but it's kind of about making sense between how the two worlds connect. So, as an example of rational truths, right? The whole doctrine of correspondence, right? Because that's about the connection between this world and next. How about teachings about heaven and hell and how we go through a world of spirits? I mean, it's about how these two worlds interact and work together. So you can imagine a woman who's been going along nice and simple in her life, doing her thing, and all of a sudden realizes, wait a second, there's something new she's learning. Through contentment, maybe she's learning about loving her enemies, right? Maybe there's something about that's there for her that's how this world and next, how it's a tribute to a person's soul to love your enemies, and that's how it carries on further. So it's something along those lines. Maybe that's what she's having been born into the life. So verse 18, the child grew, and one day he went out to his father who was with the reapers, and he said to his father, my head, my head. His father told a servant, carry him to his mother. And after the servant had lifted him up and carried him to his mother, the boy sat on her lap until noon, and then he died. So noon's the highest light of the day. Things are going well, right? Except we're heading towards darkness at noon, right? It's still light. The woman's content. She's got things together. This is not like Christmassy kind of darkness. It's spring or summertime when there's darkness ahead, but light's still out. In verse 21, she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God and then shut the door and went out. She called her husband and said, please send me one of the servants and a donkey so I can go to the man of God quickly and return. We've all been to Palm Sunday services, right? What is a donkey about, right? We know what a donkey's about. Donkeys are about our natural mind, right? That's what Jesus is doing, riding on a donkey, putting our natural mind subservient to God. And so here she is, she's representing truth, and she's riding on a donkey. She's using her natural mind. This is how the world works. She's got knowledge about sickness and disease. But what is she doing? She's going to the Lord. She's going to the Word, right? Her husband says, verse 23, why go to him today? It's not the new moon or the Sabbath, right? It's not a holiday. It's not a religious festival. What are you doing? The boy's dead. That's all right, she says. She's going to the Word anyway. The whole world is saying, the boy is dead. She says, I don't care. I'm going to talk to the Lord. So she saddled the donkey and said to her servant, lead on, don't slow down for me unless I tell you. So she set out and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. When he saw her at the distance, the man of God said to his servant Gehazi, look, there's the Shunammite, right? There's the peaceful woman. Go, run to meet her and ask her, are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is your child all right? Everything is all right, she said. No, it's not. No, it's not. Is this woman content? Does she have some kind of supernatural resolve? No, I think we're going to see right now in the next line here. No, she's not all right. It's not a throwaway line, though, either. Why is she saying she's all right? When she reached the man of God at the mountain, she took hold of his feet. Gehazi came to push her away, but the man of God said to her, leave her alone. She is in bitter distress, but the Lord has hidden it from me, and he has not told me why. Did I ask you for a son, my Lord? Didn't I tell you? Don't raise my hopes. Elijah said to Gehazi, tuck your cloak into your belt. Get ready to run. Take my staff in your hand and run. Don't greet anyone you meet. And if anybody greets you, do not answer. Lay my staff on the boy's face. But the child's mother said, as surely as the Lord lives and you live, I will not leave you. So he got up and followed her. Gehazi went on ahead and laid the staff on the boy's face, but there was no sound or response. So Gehazi went back to meet Elijah and told him, the boy has not awakened. So Gehazi is Elijah's servant, and servants in general are about an intellectual side of our spiritual life. So when you have Elijah, who has the servant with him, the servant has the rod, right? He has Elijah's rod. Elisha, yes. Elijah, it's the rod of power, right? And we see this all throughout Scripture, right? Moses parts the Red Sea. You know, he uses the rod to turn the water to blood. It's about power. So here, the rod's combined with an intellectual understanding of spirituality. And when this intellectual power is placed on the boy, nothing happens. Nothing happens. And this is where miracles fail to materialize in our lives because we think too hard about them. Lord, I want you to, do this miracle, but, I went to the doctors and they said I can't possibly be healed. Science says this can't happen. Our brains get in the way of the miracle. Gehazi's there, probably thinking the boy's dead. I can't do this. Here's your power. Here's some intellectual meaning, but, let's see if we can do this anyway. And nothing happens. Lord, I want to believe, help my unbelief, right? This is what's going on here. Verse 32. When Elisha reached the house, there was the boy lying dead on his couch. He went in, shut the door on the two of them, and prayed to the Lord. Then he got on the bed and lay on the boy, mouth to mouth, eyes to eyes, hands to hands. As he stretched himself out on him, the boy's body grew warm. Elisha turned away and walked back and forth in the room, and then got on the bed and stretched out on him once more. The boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. What's that about? The hands are about power. So Elijah, Elisha's the word, and he connects power to power, hands to hands, eyes to eyes, the understanding is connecting there. He walks around the room 7 times. 7 is about holiness, right? And the mouth is the inward speech that belongs to thought. So the word, Elisha, he's connecting with this boy, and this boy is a truth that's supposed to help the mother learn more about connecting the spiritual and natural worlds, right? Then the boy sneezes 7 times. Now I have tried to search all through the writings. What does sneezing correspond to? Nothing. Nothing there. Nothing there. But if you poke around on the old interweb and get an idea of, well, what's sneezing? Because a lot of these things, they have a sensible meaning. Well, sneezing, right, it's about getting rid of an irritant, right? And from what I read, sneezing, when we sneeze to get rid of an irritant, it's not just getting that thing out, but it's kind of like a Control-Alt-Delete, kind of a reset, a reboot of our system. It's, some way to start fresh again. So I kind of wonder if that's what the boy is doing. There's something not quite right with the boy, so it's just, okay, yeah, there's not something right. He's dead. So you do a kind of a system reset. Maybe it's like the equivalent of putting that defibrillator on our heart. Spiritually, is it the same thing? I don't know. But there's something that's going on that's being reset as far as I can figure it. And that I think with this miracle, the woman now sees things differently. With this boy dying and coming back to life, I think it's a sign that the blessing of this boy wasn't really integrated into her life. Does she still have pain around the lack of having a son up to that point? Right? This woman lived with the pain of not having kids for years. Now she has a kid, and how does she come to Elijah? She's like, oh, I told you not to mess with me. Is the pain of not having kids all those years really resolved? Not really. I told you not to mess with me. She's still got the same old pain that's now resurfacing in a different circumstance. Oh, I told you. Oh, it's still there. It's still there. And so I think what's going on here is that this child is this blessing that's born out of the contentment of her life, but it hadn't really changed her life yet. She still had to have the word and Elijah saying, I'm going to take you to a new place, right? I'm going to take you somewhere new, somewhere where that pain you've had no longer exists. You've got a lot going right for you, Miss Shunammite. You've got a lot going right. You've been doing a great job. Now, we're going to go somewhere even better. Elijah summoned Gehazi and said, call the Shunammite. And he did. And when she came, he said, take your son. She came in, fell at his feet, and bowed to the ground. And then she took her son and went out. I think the key to this story, right, is that she keeps the Lord close by throughout the entire time, right? She's got a room for him on the roof. It's always there. And even when he's not in the room, he's within a run of the servant, right? I can go get him. She goes to the Lord when she needs help, when she needs a miracle that doesn't make any sense. She says, I'm still going to the Lord anyway. How peaceful is this woman now after she's gone through this trial, right? None but the person who is acquainted with the state of peace is capable of knowing about the serenity of peace of the external man, which ensues when conflict, the unrest caused by evil desires and falsities, comes to an end. I bet there's some conflict that's come to an end for her. I bet there's a conflict that's come to an end. This state is so joyful that it transcends every idea of joy. It's not just an end of a conflict, it's also the life coming from an inward peace, influencing the internal man in a way that defies description. How are you going to knock this woman off her peace now? She's seen it all, right? She's learned how to deal with not having a kid. She's learned to have the joy of having a kid and losing that kid. How do you make her unpeaceful? Right? This number, Secrets of Heaven 92, I think that's what it was, it speaks to how peaceful I think this woman is. You know, she's transcended to something higher. The child is these loves that are born, something that comes out of this experience. And now she's got it. Now that she's been through this, nothing's going to mess with her. The faith is tested. The faith is tested. And she knows now that when things go wrong, does she really need to get upset? Nope. Got the word in my heart in this deep place. Got the word at arm's reach. I can do it. When there's a problem, the Lord has the answer. Sure enough, He answered. He answered. Miracles do happen. Sometimes for us, it happens on a deeper level, a spiritual level, and not necessarily in this literal way. But miracles do happen. And these are the blessings that we get out of being a contented and peaceful person. Amen.